Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. We've just heard what certainly is probably one of the most famous parts of the gospel, but one that is somewhat difficult to understand, for most feel that Martha is getting a bum rap here. However, we need to read it in the lens of the first reading that the church offers to us, the reading from Genesis, if we are to really understand the nuance and the depth of what Jesus is speaking about in the gospel today. And so we begin with what we heard in the book of Genesis, that the Lord appeared to Abraham. So here, the Lord of heaven and of earth is coming to Abraham. Abraham is sitting outside of the entrance to his tent, and looking up, he sees 3 men standing nearby. And when he sees them, he bows to the ground and says, "Sir, if I may ask you this favor, please do not go on past your servant." Isn't it interesting that we find that God is appearing to Abraham, and yet there are 3 men standing there, and yet Abraham says singularly, "Sir." There is that kind of interplay there. It seems to be perhaps the first biblical indication of the Trinity of persons in the one God, something which Jesus will reveal in his public ministry. But then Abraham goes into almost a tizzy, we might say. He runs in and asks Sarah to make up rolls. He runs to the herd. He picks out a tender choice steer, gives it to the servant who prepares it quickly. Abraham gets some curds and some milk, and then he waits upon them. He waits on them. Totally, completely, fully invested in hospitality, giving of himself into that work of hospitality. And why? Well, because God is present, and everything else in life takes a second place. Everything else that's going on in Abraham's life stops because he's giving himself totally over to God. And that's the lens that we need to use to look at our gospel passage today. Martha's service is not being denied or denigrated by Jesus, for her service is a service to God. Jesus calls each and every one of us to be his disciple, and disciples have to have one focus. There's one main thing that we need to keep our eyes upon. It's that one essential thing, that one necessary thing. And when we discover that one necessary thing, we find that it is fundamental for life. Now, Mary chose to sit at the feet of Jesus, to be in his presence, to learn from him, to enjoy him, to understand his teachings and his revelations. Her focus was clear. Her eye was on the main thing. But Martha, doing what she is doing in service to God, has lost her focus. She's taken her eye off the main thing. She's forgetting why she's doing what she's doing. And so anxiety has come in, worry has come in. She is, in other words, distracted by all of the little things that she is caught up with. How easy is that for us to experience in our own lives, is it not? It's easy to become distracted, to lose our focus, to forget about the main thing. All of us have been there, and all of us deal with that. Our human nature easily can trip us up. And so anxiety comes in and worry comes in. Distraction diverts us from the purpose and the reason and the main thing that we are to be all about. So the final question with the gospel is, what is this better part that Jesus is talking about? Is it sitting at the feet of Jesus, or is it offering service? Actually, it's neither. The better part is devotion to the Lord, turning over our heart, mind, body, and soul to Jesus Christ, discovering that one thing that is necessary for life and for love, holding on to that with everything that we have, so that whether we are sitting in prayer with the Lord or serving our brothers and sisters with self-sacrificing love, we are totally and completely, fully devoted to Jesus. We know that we're connected with him and that he is fully alive within the depths of our hearts. For it is through his sacraments, pondering his holy word in Scripture, that we become more and more focused, that we become surrendering of our wills to the will of God himself, that we intentionally love God above all else, love others with the love with which God has loved us. This is what St. Paul is talking about. He talks about the mystery hidden from ages and from generations past, now manifested to his holy ones. And what is that mystery? It is Christ in you, the hope for glory. That's the main thing. That is what the Lord calls us to. And whether we are actively doing something or whether we are sitting at his feet in prayer, let us give our hearts, minds, bodies, and souls completely and totally over to him.